It's a month since Bahrain. Who has made best use of this break in the Formula One season? Will the highly competitive start to the championship continue here in Barcelona? It's qualifying for tomorrow's Spanish Grand Prix, described by Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Thank you, Steve. Hello, everybody. Well, for the third year in a row, Fernando Alonso comes to his home Grand Prix, leading the World Championship, albeit this time he only has a part share in that lead as we look at Mark Webber down there in the garages, getting ready for this session. Very warm here in Barcelona. The track temperature 48 degrees and the air temperature 27. It's considerably hotter than it was last week here in the test, where Ferrari was very much the team to beat. And so far this weekend, it's really been all about McLaren. Lewis Hamilton fastest in 2 of the 3 practice sessions so far. Alonso quickest yesterday afternoon, but critically it was Lewis who was quickest this morning. And I think Alonso is just as much worried, Martin, about the enemy within this weekend as he is about the challenge from the Ferraris, because everything we're seeing at the moment shows an Alonso who is struggling to get himself on top in that team, to assert himself as the double world champion and to try and put Lewis Hamilton in some sort of shade.
Yes, Lewis Hamilton didn't come to the test last week. It was all about Fernando Alonso and test driver Pedro de la Rosa, and he hasn't even tried some of the new parts on the car. Still, he has looked the faster of the 2 McLaren drivers and fastest of anybody this morning. We caught a quick glimpse a few seconds ago of Michael Schumacher. First time we've seen him in the paddock this year, supporting the Ferrari team. It's quite odd to see him sort of wandering around with a piece of paper in his hand without quite the sort of entourage and fan group behind him as he goes through the paddock. We will be hearing from him in tomorrow's show. That's Michael Schumacher, but we're watching Felipe Massa about to jump in to the Ferrari.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Schumacher. No one's quite sure how many races he's going to attend. He's not sure himself, but he's come for the whole weekend here to assist the Ferrari team. Kimi Raikkonen distancing himself from any suggestion that Schumacher will be doing any advising of the drivers. Raikkonen says, I don't need any help. Me and my engineer, we're good, thank you very much. But I think part of the reason that he's here is Raikkonen and Massa, they're not really the natural leaders perhaps that Schumacher was, and they want, Jean Todt I think wants Schumacher to have a good look at the Ferrari structure, make sure it's what they need going forward, and well, it'll be interesting to see how much of an influence he actually has. There's Jarno Trulli. You can see how full the grandstands are. Just 4 years ago,
Jarno, 2 flying laps.
2 flying laps for Jarno Trulli. I was just going to say, 4 years ago, there wasn't even nationwide TV coverage of Formula One here in Spain. And now it's 160 sellout for Sunday afternoon. And audiences of around 12 or 14 million for every Grand Prix. That's the transformation we've seen. And, of course, another Spanish Grand Prix coming up next year in Valencia.
That's been announced. Seems to be subject to 1 or 2 other things happening, but Valencia on the quayside where they're holding the America's Cup. So Formula One will have 2 venues. Interesting, isn't it? We've only got, now Michael Schumacher's gone, we've got 1 race in Germany this year, where we've had 2 races for a dozen years or more. And all of a sudden it's 1 German race and 2 Spanish races. Just reminds you, doesn't it, that the fans really truly follow the drivers at the end of the day, as much as the manufacturers would like to think differently.
And the money follows them as well. Of course, it's a commercial imperative to get 2 races in Spain. Let's hope the Lewis Hamilton effect has a similar effect back in the UK. Looking at Jarno Trulli then, coming towards the end of the lap. This is the 3rd sector, and it's very different from the first 2 sectors here at Barcelona, which are all medium high-speed corners. This is a fiddly, difficult little sector. It's all about mechanical grip and tyre wear, and here is the new chicane. First time we've seen a car coming through at something approaching top speed, and you can see it's a niggly little place, and I think we'll see a lot of drivers trying to grab some time that perhaps isn't there through that chicane, and getting a little bit frustrated as Trulli crosses the line. And I have a feeling we might see a few mistakes in that chicane here this afternoon. Trulli then the first to set a time, a 1:23.0. Sutil in the Spiker has done a 1:24.5, and only 14 cars have gone out on circuit with 10 minutes remaining of this first part of qualifying. And remind you, it's 3 15-minute sessions. We lose the slowest 6 cars at the end of this session.
Well, there's been a very solid field full of Porsche Super Cup cars that have had a qualifying session. It does alter the chemistry of the racetrack. Plus, there's a reasonably firm tailwind down the pit straight, which will affect the cars in other parts of the racetrack too. So the drivers may find the track is not quite as they left it an hour and a half or so ago.
The engine keeps dying on my downshift. It's happened 3 times now. The engine just completely died. Okay, Scott.
Ferrari engine in the back of that Toro Rosso dying on downshifts. It's a problem they can fix?
It's going to be a software-related thing, I'd imagine, so hopefully they can just reboot that thing when it gets into the pit lane. And he's just got to go through that final new slow chicane, and the pit lane is immediately afterwards. Gerhard Berger there, effectively the team boss, joint owner of the Toro Rosso team. And having a bit of a torrid time is Gerhard. It worked so well for him when he was at BMW. They won Le Mans, then he moved on to the Formula 1 engine side, and they had what was comfortably perceived as the best engine in Formula 1. And at the moment, Gerhard is just struggling to get this Toro Rosso team pointing in the right direction.
On board with Anthony Davidson through the final corner onto the pit straight. Super Aguri going reasonably strongly this morning in the form of Davidson, who was 8th fastest. He does a 1:22.353, and that's about half a second slower than he went this morning in the free practice session. Once again, Davidson, who qualified 13th at the last race in Bahrain, on good form now, hitting his stride as a Grand Prix driver and starting to really fit the bill. Here's Giancarlo Fisichella for Renault, still not quite finding the pace. They're in that very dense midfield pack behind the Ferrari, McLaren and BMW. You've got this group of teams, Williams, Toyota, Renault and Red Bull, who are all within about 1/10 of a second of each other. It's absolutely that close, and of course that means the difference between making it into the top 10 shootout and not making it into the top 10 shootout. That's another feature we'll see this afternoon in the second part of qualifying, how tight that's going to be in the midfield.
Coulthard third at the moment. He was 5th fastest overall this morning. The Red Bull definitely seems to have taken a step forward through the test last week. We didn't see much of Mark Webber. He had a technical problem with a drive shaft, I believe, and so he's been immense in qualifying so far this year, Mark Webber. But he's got a tall order this afternoon with so little running this morning. We'll keep an eye out for him. Rubens Barrichello, I have to say that Honda does look ponderous out on the racetrack. It's soft and slow to react, unfortunately. And the two drivers really seem to have to wait so long on all the apexes before the car makes up its mind what it wants to do next.
Well, we're looking at Rubens Barrichello. Fisichella, we saw a moment ago, abandoning a lap. I'm not quite sure why that was. Maybe obviously not happy with something. If you look at the moment, a lot of drivers out on harder tyres. The softer tyre you can see quite clearly is the one with the white bands on it. That's the one Rubens Barrichello is using. And it's not quite so clear-cut which is the faster tyre here this weekend. Certainly for Ferrari, who've been setting their best times using the harder tyre so far in free practice. Generally, the wisdom is the softer the tyre, the quicker you go on a single qualifying lap. And that's certainly what Rubens Barrichello believes to be the case here. He's on the softer tyre to make sure he gets out of this first part of the shootout and into the second part of qualifying. He goes 9th on a 1:22.9.
Yeah, that's not going to be fast enough to get him through, I suspect. 21s, 1 minute 21s will be the kind of times we're expecting. There's Scott Speed having got back to the pits with the gremlin he's got going on behind him. Hamilton is about to comfortably go fastest, providing he can navigate this very tight final part of the lap. There's certainly a very mixed reaction.
Enormously confident, driving beautifully as well, and looking every inch as quick as this man, reigning world champion Fernando Alonso. Meanwhile on track, Raikkonen going slightly faster. Let's take a look at Alonso. He has a very distinctive style, Alonso, just pitching the car into the corners. Look at the support he's got from the fans, the blue and gold, blue and yellow of Asturias, his local region.
White striped softer tyres they'll use later on to get the actual top 10 grid position. Surely both McLarens will comfortably go through. Heidfeld in the very drivable BMW was second, is now third. Raikkonen's gone second, but 7/10 behind Lewis Hamilton. How can Alonso respond?
Out of the final corner he comes, and across the line. Is he faster than Hamilton? No, he's not. He's half a second slower. And the eagle-eyed among you will see a new element on that front wing of the McLaren going up over the top of the nose. It's one of many aerodynamic changes that they've brought along as Heidfeld goes 4th, Kubica 5th. across the line there for BMW. As I say, there's Fisichella, who abandoned the lap earlier on in the garage. 4.5 minutes to go, and currently yet to set a time. Massa hasn't set a time, and the Ferrari, and neither has Scott Speed. We've seen already that he's got some problems with his engine cutting out.
Fisichella abandoned his one attempt at a lap. Electrical problems we're hearing from the ITV pit crew down there. At the moment, he's P20 and not in the action. And Felipe Massa turning right into a left-hander to try to control the oversteer. And curiously, the Ferraris this morning just 6th and 7th fastest and really not looking that strong. Although, had he not have made that mistake, Massa, quickest man through the middle part of this lap. So the speed is in there. It seems as if the drivers are just having to fight the car rather.
Felipe Massa, winner of the last Grand Prix in Bahrain. A real boost to his confidence that was. Got him into the championship hunt. He goes second behind Hamilton, 0.2 of a second slower. And now Fisichella is going to go out and try and set a time. At the moment, in the drop zone, we have Ralf Schumacher, Mark Webber, Christian Albers, Adrian Sutil, Giancarlo Fisichella and Scott Speed. And that means Jenson Button is going to have to worry if Fisichella improves, and Ralf Schumacher and Webber as we expect. Button needs to find some more speed here. So does Rosberg. They're both in the high 1:22s. It's going to take something in the mid 1:22s, Martin, I think, to get safely through. Look how close it is. Behind 9th place Coulthard and 16th place Barrichello is less than 0.3 of a second.
Ted has some news.
Yeah, I'm down at Honda, Martin. So Jensen's had one go on the soft tyres. This is his second go. They said that it would be very difficult for them to make it into Q2, but that's what they're going to try. And Jensen, I'm just having a look what he's done. It looks like he's taken a bit of front wing off, so that would have been oversteer in that Honda.
Thanks for that, Ted. This is significant to me. I mean, this is a key problem, a key error that has thrown away a good half second there for Felipe Massa, and still he's only 0.2 slower than Lewis Hamilton. So that Ferrari does have the pace if they can hook it up, and that is one of the spikers on very much the wrong part of the racetrack. He's gone into that turn 9 and gone completely off the road onto the old piece of racetrack that we used to use back in the 90s.
Well, Nick Heidfeld, currently running in 4th place, says he'd managed to do a second flying lap on his tyres that took him faster than Kimi Räikkönen. That might prove a little significant later on as well. There's another shot of Albers. That's the second time today he's gone off the racetrack. He did it this morning in a similar fashion, pushing hard because he's under pressure from teammate Adrian Sutil, who was once Lewis Hamilton's teammate back in Formula 3 Euro Series. And I think Albers is really feeling it from Sutil.
Yeah, it's blind, that corner, and you sort of commit with belief, and when you realise it's going wrong, it's too late. Davidson's going well, P7 at the moment, and currently
the beginning of the European season, when new aerodynamic updates, engine modifications come on stream, the cars become quite different from the ones that started the season in Melbourne. And now we have only one team in the field that doesn't use the seamless shift gearbox, whereby no power is lost when you change gears. Only Spiker do not have one of those gearboxes. Everybody else now is using one.
Mark Webber's going to drop out in the first part of this qualifying. He's not on track, and he's run out of time. All sorts of problems for Mark Webber, and Louise is right there.
Yes, I've been down in the Red Bull garage watching progress or lack of progress for Mark Webber. He's out of the car already. There was some kind of technical issue, not quite sure exactly what it was yet, but Mark was sat in the car and the team were unable to start it to get it out on track. So as soon as I've got more information, I'll let you know.
Meanwhile, Coulthard in 9th at the moment is on a much better lap and is about to put himself 7th or 8th, I think, in this session and comfortably get through to part 2 of qualifying. And there is Mark Webber's car then. He will start this Grand Prix 19th. Scott Speed is 22nd at the moment. We saw him with the problems too, but 19th for Webber, unless somebody has an engine change. And Coulthard has pitted. He's been told you will not drop out of that top 16, so abandon that lap.
Yep, he's 0.4 of a second inside safety. Trulli, Barrichello, Webber, Sutil, Albers and Speed as the checkered flag is thrown. Any driver on a lap is still able to complete it. That's Ralf Schumacher, Jenson Button, Nico Rosberg, who's 14th. Rubens Barrichello as well, who's the fastest he's faster than his teammate. Rosberg a little bit quicker too. Rosberg should be safe. Yeah, he's had a reasonably good middle sector as well. I think Rosberg's going to be safe, but the Hondas are on the bubble.
Yeah, Coulthard might not be safe there either at the moment, so whether he caught traffic or made a mistake, I don't know, but there are enough people on hot laps to give David a real headache there in P10 at the moment. Davidson looks comfortable though in P8.
Ralf Schumacher improves. He goes 14th. Rosberg improves. He goes to 8th. Fisichella goes 9th. Coulthard dropping down to 12th now. Button is 17th. You can see it's changing right before your eyes on the left-hand side on the ladder. Wirtz, Button, Webber, Sutil, Albers and Speed. At the moment, the 6 in the danger zone.
And they've all done their hot laps now, so it's pretty much over. Button 15th, just over the line with a mid-22, and does get through to second qualifying. So Ralf Schumacher for Toyota out, Wirtz, Williams out, Webber, technical problems, Red Bull out, Sutil, Albers, Spiker, both out. Scott Speed never got in it really with those problems, and Louise is with Mark Webber.
Mark, no chance to improve your time if you can't get your car out the garage, is there? What was the problem?
Looks like hydraulics actually, so the guys called me in at the my second time lap, which would have been nice to complete, but the guys obviously were going to not finish or get the car back to the pit, so we had to abort that run, and then they tried to get it fixed to get out again to run another set, but they couldn't get the car out, so it's obviously suicide in that session. If you can't get out, as you say, it's you pay the ultimate price. And around here, it's not. You can have some fun at Bahrain because you can overtake, but around here it's hard, so it's going to be a long race from there.
Thanks, Mark.
Mark Webber spends more time talking to Louise than he does driving the car at the moment. Reliability is certainly a big problem for him. He's had 2 potential points finishes that have been spoiled by reliability already, so a lot of work to be done there. The second part of qualifying, though, coming right up. Qualifying for tomorrow's Spanish Grand Prix here in Barcelona. Last year it was the best attended race of any of the season. Over 350,000 people turning up here over the course of the 4 days. And they've added an extra 30,000 grandstand seats here this season. So it's going to be absolute mayhem tomorrow. It's bad enough on Saturday. Look at this. Very unusual to see such a huge turnout on a Saturday. That is the passion for Formula One here in Spain now. And we are witnessing a very interesting session because once again Lewis Hamilton faster than teammate Fernando Alonso in the first part of qualifying. And has Alonso got something in his pocket, or is he going to be beaten by his rookie teammate? Both of them, of course, Martin, still looking for their first pole position this season. Thus far it's been an exclusive Ferrari lockout on pole, but you'd have to say today, from everything that we've seen so far, Ferrari do not necessarily seem to have an edge, although that lap, as you said, of Massa's, where he made a mistake and yet was still only a couple of tenths slower than Hamilton, is an indicator that the speed is there if they can unlock it. Well, we've seen a couple of big names drop out. Ralf Schumacher, Mark Webber in the first part of the qualifying session. Let's hear now from Alex Wirtz.
Alex, surprising to see you drop out in that session. Was there some kind of problem?
Yeah, it's a disaster, I tell you. Like a rush hour traffic jam on my outlap. I had to go in the dirt to let other guys through, and then, you know, Julie was slowing down like he wanted to have a picnic, and my tire temperatures were just gone. Traffic in my time lap is just really not my weekend so far, because the selector time's always good, first run quicker than my teammate, but then like this is really not nice, and I'm very frustrated.
Not the driving standards you would expect?
Well, I mean, everyone has to look for himself first, but you know, if qualifying is like this, that guys stand in each other's way, that's not what sport should be. Yeah, nice thinking, man.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, we've seen it all through the weekend. That new section towards the end of the lap, that's sort of the filter where those trying to find space are backing off. Those on a hot lap, it's almost like being in Monte Carlo. Those on a hot lap are steaming in and finding much slower cars. But I have to say, I've got a whole new respect for this cold tyre, low pressure thing. Mark Blundell and I both drove the Williams a couple of weeks ago for a new feature that we're doing that will come out mid-year on various aspects of driving the F1 cars. And while we were doing some set pieces with overtaking, we lost tyre temperature, and it was like driving on ice. It was incredible. And I've got to say, I've got a whole new respect now, post-safety car, and in circumstances where the tyres are not fully up to speed, temperature, pressure, and therefore grip.
Well, the crowd enjoying the atmosphere. That's Kimi Räikkönen in the Ferrari garage. Those wings mirrors stuck out on the edge of the side pods. And it's very interesting. I heard one theory that that's maybe why Lewis Hamilton was able to make that very bold move up the inside of Malaysia, is because Felipe Massa couldn't see him. If you see where the wing mirror is off to the right, you'd have to literally turn your head quite significantly to see that. It's not just like just flicking your eyes across. And well, Lewis able to steam up the inside because maybe Massa just wasn't aware that he was there. So
yeah, they're hard enough to you get a good view of your rear tyre. I mean, those ones out on the side pods look like about as useful as a chocolate fireguard, I would have thought. And it's very much a question of an ounce of aerodynamic performance getting accepted over common sense, really, by putting the wing mirrors right out there.
It's one of the things that Alonso insisted on when he moved to McLaren. He wanted a car that he could race with, that had the mirrors in the right places, that wouldn't get caught out, and it certainly seems that it's worked for them so far. There's Coulthard. He's been on good form recently, hasn't he? Terrific run in Bahrain, one of his best races for a long time. Only reliability stood between him and a points finish there. He was very quick last week here in Barcelona in testing. Did a 1:21.0, which is as fast as anybody's done so far this weekend. If he could replicate that this afternoon, that would be something. But it is a lot hotter here this week than it was last week. The test blighted by a few rain showers as well last week, and now the track temperature's crept up beyond 50 degrees right now.
Look how much left and right Massa's got to look to see in those mirrors. A mirror should be a peripheral vision thing, and you shouldn't have to actively need to look in them to see what's going on behind you. It should be like a sixth sense.
So the second part of qualifying, we'll have 15 minutes. We've got 12 left, and at the end of it we will lose once again the 6 slowest cars, and the 10 fastest will go through to the pole position shootout. Important to start at the front here in Barcelona. We've been hearing already about how difficult it is to follow another car. That's not uncommon in Formula One, but this is probably the most punishing circuit of the year in terms of aerodynamic effect when you follow another car. I was talking yesterday to Anthony Davidson. He said he'd been following Felipe Massa. He was 2.5 seconds behind him on the racetrack, and yet he felt like there was no aerodynamic downforce at all on the front wing of his car. So it's absolutely critical around here, because you want to start at the front, otherwise you're going to have a lot of problems. Ted Kravitz, what can you say?
Yeah, just looking what's going on down here and why everybody is waiting so long, James. It's because there are all these sort of dandelion seeds. You might see it on some of the shots. There's sort of white stuff that's hanging in the air. It's making the track incredibly dusty. So they're all going to wait, as they did in Q1, until right at the end to do their laps. Lewis Hamilton, I can just see into the McLaren garage sitting there. Looks like he's going to wait another 3 or 4 minutes. Jenson Button and Rubens Barrichello, who were, by the way, separated by 1,000th of a second, just waiting a minute more before they go out. But just on the Renaults, they thought they were safe, and they thought they were in great shape yesterday, but then it got to this morning. They found the track had completely changed, and now they're just a bit lost in the midfield again.
Which is a pretty reasonable time, just 0.8 of a second slower than Lewis Hamilton managed in the first part of qualifying.
Coulthard much faster, though, in first and second sectors. He's now just got the final turns at 13 and 14 to go, the new section. Heavy braking into the first part, about 100 miles an hour down the hill, sweeping in. You sort of balance it on the brakes and throttle, and as soon as you feel the nose bite, you can get on the throttle again, and then it's easily full throttle acceleration through that final corner. Coulthard goes fast, is on a 1:21.679, and again, that should just see him in the top 10 shootout. He'll have another go, though. It's not enough to be giving it. Right, that'll do for me for now.
It is going to be tight. You've got the likes of Rosberg, you've got Kovalainen, Fisichella, Davidson in there, all trying to get themselves through. Liuzzi as well is in the mix. He's likely to drop out, I would say, in this part. So the cut-off to get into the top 10 likely to be somewhere in the mid 1:21s. Coulthard sitting there on a 21.6 is a cat on a hot tin roof. He definitely will feel he needs another lap. Just looking at Davidson. He obviously heard you say he drives an F1 car really nicely.
Commentators cursed about his precision and his smooth driving. But it's the first car we've seen off at turn 3, isn't it? We used to always go off there. We'd just pop over through the apex, the unsighted apex, and just get it horribly wrong in this space. Yeah, unlikely to hit too much hard up there. And Takuma Sato looks like he's got a technical problem. Doesn't look like he's spun off there. And, well, it's all going horribly wrong for Supraguri, all in the space of about 10 seconds.
Yeah, I believe that's also at turn 3. And just on the turn-in point for the corner, Superguri had 2 engine failures in the last Grand Prix in Bahrain, so generally speaking it's been a reliable car this throughout the winter testing in the first couple of races, but it went wrong for them in Bahrain, and it does look as though that's a pretty serious problem for Takuma Sato, which is going to certainly put him towards the back of the grid.
Kovalainen's gone fastest. He shaded Coulthard's time by 0.04 of a second. So Kovalainen from Coulthard, Fisichella a tenth behind in third. Trulli then 0.3 adrift in fourth. Rosberg fifth at the moment on a 1:22.0. Sato 22.1. We've only had 6 drivers set a competitive time, and we're more than halfway through this session. There's going to be a lot of action in the last few minutes and seconds of this top 10 shootout. Grid position here is critical. It is so hard to follow, let alone overtake, and they know that their best chance is a good grid slot and getting down into turn 1 and doing some overtaking. Let's go to Ted.
Yeah, but he's just started. Lewis Hamilton has just started the lap, as have the 2 Hondas of Button and Barrichello, as the BMW goes by to stop the lap, and surely, well, the track clears just now, so wow, that would have been seriously bad for Lewis Hamilton.
He went through turn 3, I think, after the... there is Sato, turn 11. The computer's telling us it's turn 3, but turn 11, so he's gone through there comfortably before Sato's car. Sorry, after Sato's car's gone through. So this won't affect Lewis Hamilton, and he's coming through. His middle sector is the fastest anybody has done so far. His first sector was a personal best. His final sector was the fastest of anybody, and that's a 1:20.713 for Lewis Hamilton, who is flying.
That's a new track record then so far for Lewis Hamilton. Raikkonen is about to respond. It's nip and tuck, and he can't do it. He's 0.03 of a second shy. The Ferraris are fast then when they hook it up. This is going to be a massive, massive fight for the top 4 slots on the grid. Hamilton 0.04 faster than Raikkonen at the moment. Struggling a bit on some of the timing graphics for you. They're not coming through, and we'll get those to you as soon as we can. Heidfeld then on track and goes P3 for BMW. And this is Massa. He's been quick, but not quicker than anybody except for the final sector, and goes with another new lap record, a 1:20.597. The Ferraris are coming alive. Can Alonso respond to that? At the moment, he's in the pits. He hasn't put in a lap. He's got 4 minutes 58 seconds to do so.
Robert Kubica on track, currently 7th for BMW. Heidfeld, the teammate, is in 4th place. He's had an outstanding start to the season. 3 4th-place finishes in a row in the races for him, and I certainly think pound for pound he's driven as well as anybody has done so far this season. He's not got a race-winning car, but he's been so quick and so consistent. There goes Alonso on a new set of soft tyres on the McLaren to see if he can beat the time of Massa. 1:20.597, just over a tenth of a second faster than Lewis Hamilton. And this is an important lap for Alonso, because as far as I understand it, the way McLaren's system works is the faster driver of the 2 in this second qualifying session gets first choice on fuel strategy for the final part of qualifying. Obviously, if you're the lighter car, chances are you'll be in front on the grid, or you'll get the optimum strategy. So Alonso needs to assert himself right here, right now, over Hamilton.
I think even more, they've got a very short amount of time to make that decision if that's the way it works, but even more so is if he makes an error, James, or hits traffic, then he's got no fat left in terms of time in this session to recover and have another go. Or if an error or traffic, and Alonso's not starting in the top 10. So he's very much risking it, and there's a lot of confidence he's needing to just go and banzai it. He's got to get mid 121s to comfortably in the top 10.
The problem I've got in sector 1 is I've got a little bit too much understeer in the car now in turn 3 and turn 4. It's difficult to know what to do, because that is looking after the tyres for the last sector. Maybe we'll come off a little bit with the front wing. Maybe that'll be good. Maybe one turn, maybe just half a turn.
Slightly delay there on Jensen's voice, because they were already going to adjust his front wing before he asked for it. But yeah, he's really going to be struggling to get that in the top 10, but it is just about doable. What he's saying is, I'm having to give me some tyres in the final part of the lap. I'm a bit cold, a bit cool in the early part, and I'm sliding too much. give me something to help me through the early part of the lap, and I'll continue to save my tyres for that final, much tighter part.
Here's Alonso. Apologies again for no timing on screen. The computer will tell us at the end of the lap what he does. And he's just over halfway around the lap now, into the final part. Up to Kamsa corner. His first sector is his personal best, a 1:22.7, and he is a fraction slower than Lewis Hamilton. Second sector is 30.219, which is 3/10 slower than Hamilton. So he's 3.5 tenths off Hamilton so far. Into the final part of the lap then. Slides the car beautifully into that left-hander in the chicane. Brings the back round. Out of the final corner. They carry the same speed across the start-finish line more or less as they did with the old corners. That's how quick an F1 car accelerates out of a chicane. Alonso goes fourth on a 1:20.797. So he recovered a bit in the final sector, but gives away 8/100ths of a second to teammate Lewis Hamilton. Louise, what have you got?
Just an update on the situation down at Toro Rosso, James. We heard Scott Speed on the radio earlier on talking about a problem with the car. They've made some changes to the gearbox this weekend to try and improve its performance, but it's actually resulted in a problem elsewhere with the transmission. Tonio Liuzzi now has the same issue, so he's not going to be going out at all in this session. The good news is, though, they think they can go back to the old spec and won't have the problem for the race tomorrow.
Thanks for that, Louise. We've got out on track then for the repechage, really. Kovalainen, Coulthard, Kubica, Fisichella go any further by the looks of it. So the BMW of Kubica then has been...
And the others, with the exception of Sato, who has stopped out on the racetrack, have a chance of rescuing the situation. Kubica currently 8th, personal best in the middle sector for him. He's a couple of tenths shy of the times of the Ferraris and the McLarens in the middle sector, so BMW are in touch, but not quite close enough to challenge at the front at the moment. But they're on their own, really, in third place behind the top two and well ahead of the chasing pack. Kubica goes 6th on a 1:21.381. I'll tell you what's interesting as we look at Anthony Davidson cruising around. He is currently 15th. He's had a problem in the middle sector. He's lost a lot of time.
Looking at his front tyres, they look a bit dusty. I think he's been off somewhere. Let's have a look and see if we can find out where. And that is turn 9 at the top of the hill, and he has very much been off. The problem is, does he drag gravel onto the track? Did he actually make contact with the barrier? No. And this is where he picks up the old racetrack that we used to use with a chicane in it. Coulthard was on a very quick first sector and goes 7th. Coulthard solidly then sub 125s now, and Fisichella up to 9th. Truly 10th is Rosberg, Button, Barrichello, Davidson's out, Liuzzi's out. So I think our top 10 is to an extent fixed. Rosberg didn't make it. Jarno Trulli did. So Kovalainen, Fisichella, Renault 8th and 9th at the moment. Barrichello stays, goes up to 12th, but that's not going to get the job done.
Yeah, he goes ahead of Jenson Button, who's in 14th place. And David Coulthard, for the first time this season, makes it into the pole position shootout. That's terrific for him. He really has been on a roll recently. And it's great to see. Teammate Mark Webber having a lot of technical problems, which is why he is not up there with him, I'm sure. But we have lost Rosberg, Barrichello, Sato, Button, Davidson and Liuzzi. And in a few moments we're going to have what I predict will be a titanic scrap for pole position. At the moment the two number 2s are leading the way, Massa from Hamilton, and the number 1s are behind, Raikkonen and Alonso.
Two qualifying sessions gone here in Barcelona. We're heading toward the pole position shootout to decide the front of the grid for tomorrow's Spanish Grand Prix. And Mark Blundell, it is going to be a fantastic scrap for those front positions.
It really is. I mean, there's a huge scrap going on between McLaren's two drivers, Alonso with his home race, and Lewis obviously doing an outstanding job again, but also with Ferrari and McLaren. And interestingly for me, Ferrari all day yesterday were off the pace. They've came here this morning a little bit off the pace. All of a sudden we're getting to where it counts in qualifying, and they're right there, and I mean right there by thousandths of a second. So when it comes to this last little session now, it's going to be exciting.
So what sort of theories do you have about that they were deliberately holding something back, that they knew that they always had something in reserve?
I think they know they've got something in reserve, but I'm just a little bit confused as to why they would choose to do that throughout the course of the weekend. But, you know, you see someone like Felipe Massa, when he gets his lap put together, he turns it on, and he's right there with the speed of McLaren's. You know, you can see he's pushing, he's getting a little bit sideways there, he's not quite got the grip level that he would want, but at the same point, I think that's just a case of him just extracting everything out of that Ferrari. I just don't understand the strategy and the philosophy at the beginning of a Grand Prix weekend like we've seen so far.
But Lewis Hamilton against Fernando Alonso, that's a battle that's a lot easier to understand, and Lewis is winning it at the moment.
He is indeed, Steve, and every time he's gone down that pit lane, he's rolled out, he's performed impeccably. I think, you know, Lewis is going to make a statement here, and probably this weekend for me is one of the biggest weekends for Lewis.
Can he get pole position?
Undoubtedly.
Right. What did it mean when he was clearly faster than Fernando Alonso in that second session? I mean, James was suggesting that it gives him an advantage in fuel strategy, but it certainly gives him a moral advantage, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think, you know, during this qualifying situation, I'm not so sure he's worried too much about fuel strategy. I think he's worried about, can he beat his teammate, and can he be at the front of that whole grid for tomorrow's Grand Prix? That's his aim, and that's certainly what he's trying to do.
Well, Martin and James are watching with interest ahead of this final session. Could this be the weekend? Lewis Hamilton's first pole position in Formula One. What do you think, fellas?
He certainly had the composure, hasn't he, Martin? It's absolutely extraordinary. You look into the eyes of Lewis Hamilton at any stage of a Grand Prix weekend, no matter how close to the action it is, he always looks supremely composed.
Yes, he's sitting at the end of the pit lane, though. He's been there the thick end of 2 minutes now, and this fight to get out first in clear air to go through this next race setup, fuel burn stage, whatever you like to call it. And it's so unusual for a Formula 1 car to sit so long in these conditions, but Lewis is at the front of the queue, ahead of the Ferraris, who've been sitting there only just a few seconds less than him, and they want to get out there and understand where they're at in terms of race pace, and Louise has found Jenson Button.
Jenson, 12th and 14th isn't normally much to shout about, but that's actually very respectable given the team's current problems, isn't it?
Yeah, I think a few people had issues in qualifying, but it was actually a fun session. You know, the car was much better this morning. This morning I was really struggling. I couldn't get the first lap. I had a pretty poor balance, but in qualifying it was much better. We were so close the whole of qualifying, within half a tenth of each other. He just got the better of me on the last run. It felt really good actually compared to what we have had. But in turn 6 I ran wide across I got 2 wheels just on the edge of the curve on the dirt, which cost me a bit of time, but it's my mistake.
Race-wise, what kind of car have you got?
I think I've got a good... I've set the car more for the race, you know, because the race is where we've been struggling lately, and so I've set it up more for the race than in qualifying, so I'm hoping for a reasonable race.
You know, I'm only half joking when I say that. I'm sure if that guy had a proper paint job, it'd be the whole team would be lifted 0.3 of a second. It just looks weird out there. Off they go then. Hamilton ahead of Massa, Raikkonen, Heidfeld, Kubica, Trulli, Coulthard out there, and Alonso at the moment has chosen not to join this little somewhat unnecessary squabble, you have to say.
Well, we've seen this before. We saw it a lot last year between Alonso and Michael Schumacher for who can lead and set the pace, really, at the rate they want to go round. This is not a good place for Massa to be in many ways, behind the McLaren. I suppose he's learning a little bit of something of how it is to follow the McLaren, what the car behaves like so close up behind another one, because this is a situation we'll see during the race. And well, it's going to be very interesting, I think, this next 15 minutes to see what's inside the head of Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso, and whether Ferrari, who took a step forward here in qualifying from where they've been in free practice, can continue that progress and grab pole position for the 4th time this season. I think the significant moment, Martin, for me was that throughout the practice they'd really worked mainly on the harder tyre. They were saying they couldn't really get a balance on the softer tyre, and yet the times that they did there, which put Massa fastest in the second part of qualifying, were set on the softer tyre. That was the turning point as Raikkonen tries to get some clear air there behind Hamilton.
Yeah, puff of blue smoke coming out of the back. Is that something underneath the cars at the end? We saw, of course, Lewis Hamilton smoking a bit all through the Bahraini Grand Prix, and it'll be the same engine he's got in there at the moment. It's now in race trim though, with some race fuel on board. Now there was less than 1.5 of a second between the top 4 cars, but of course that was in pure no fuel on board, new tyre, give it your best. That was the absolute speed of the cars in that qualifying 2. now they've had to go for a strategy for the Grand Prix. Every lap they complete, they'll be given a fuel credit, so they'll want to burn off as much fuel as they can. Every 4 laps they can do will make them go 0.3 of a lap per lap, but faster when they bolt on the fresh tyre. So that's what this phase is all about, as ever. And well, it's very, very interesting to now, will these two teams just push each other to go less and less and less fuel sitting on the grid because it's so close?
Yep, and this is particularly a track where you do want to start from the front, as we were saying earlier on. Last year, if you remember here, the Renaults were giving away a second a lap in performance to the Ferrari. So Pat Simmons, the technical director of Renault, decided that he was just going to take the fuel out of the car and get it onto the front row of the grid, whatever, and just try and mess up Ferrari's race. And that's exactly what they did. Alonso taking pole position as Rob Smedley, Felipe Massa's English race engineer, watches progress out on the track. And there is Joe Ramirez, the veteran of the McLaren team, now 5 years into his retirement. Anyway, it worked for them last year. Alonso got the front row of the grid, and then circumstances changed on race day, and the race came towards Renault and Alonso. And certainly there'll be a temptation, I think, from both Ferrari and McLaren to do the same thing, as you say, to try and grab it.
How about that for a bit of race pace then, James? A 1:22.8 from Fernando Alonso with old, hard tyres.
Give you the minimum amount of time, so you can count it, and you can be very accurate in guessing how much fuel a driver has taken on. But when you've got a little bit of time between qualifying sessions, you leave the nozzle on for 8 seconds, maybe make Ferrari think you're carrying something different from what you actually are. Who knows how much fuel went into the car. McLaren don't tend to play mind games quite so much. Renault and Ferrari certainly enjoy that kind of thing, trying to throw the opposition off the scent a little bit. But we will see. All will become clear in the next 10 minutes. Let's take a look at the battle between the two BMW drivers. At the moment, it seems that Kubica and Heidfeld, there's very little to choose between them over Heidfeld at some point soon. He was the great new man, wasn't he, towards the end of last year? Grabbed that podium in Italy on the famous day that Michael Schumacher announced his retirement. But since then, we've not really seen much from him.
He's doing what almost all of us did, all of them do. You come in, you look good, nothing to lose, and then you get into a bit of a trough as the strain of Grand Prix racing takes it out of you. The only two people I've seen not do that are Ayrton Senna and Michael Schumacher, and at the moment we've seen no sign of it from Lewis Hamilton either. It is the slog of it ends up suddenly taking your focus away, and when you have had some results, all of a sudden you have got something to lose, and you're then the man leading the development of the car, and you haven't really quite got the experience to do that. And I think Kubica's going through a bit of that phase at the moment, and the older, wiser head of Heidfeld, who's done 117 races, is paying dividends.
David Coulthard there, Red Bull Racing, using their seamless shift gearbox for the first time this season in a Grand Prix weekend. It's given them, amongst other technical updates, a nice boost in pace. As I mentioned earlier on, they're in that pack with Williams, Toyota and Renault, and it's going to be very interesting to see which one of those 4 teams can get to the front of that pack. David Coulthard said yesterday after practice he felt that Red Bull were now the 4th fastest team in Formula 1, and we're about to find out whether that's true.
I think he's driving as well as I've seen him drive for a number of years now, DC. He's really on form. Watching him out on track this morning, he was attacking the track, car was sliding around, he just drove through it, and well, they're coming in pretty early for their first attempt then. They'll be putting a fresh set of tyres on. Obviously, they can't adjust the fuel at this point. They can adjust maybe the front wing angle and tyre pressures. That's about it. And Alonso in 2. They're all in, from what I can see, basically. And now this is it. And they've got that's hard tyres going on the BMW.
We saw that in Bahrain, do you remember? They went out on the harder tyre to get a bit of a sighter or see whether it was quicker. They've got the time, of course, to do another flying lap after this. So BMW repeating their tactics of Bahrain, sending the drivers out, saving a set of soft tyres, seeing what they can do on the harder tyre. McLaren are not doing that. Alonso is absolutely hell-bent on getting pole position here for the 2nd year in a row. There's a good look at that new front wing, you see, scooping up over the nose of the car. Cooling the brake disc down there with blowers, if you notice, just before the car went out. Every little detail taken care of.
Well, you don't really want to come in as hot as they do, but there's no time as they release the McLaren of Lewis Hamilton into the path of the Ferrari. Slightly marginal there. It's a long pit lane there. It's very difficult for the lollipop man here, but fundamentally they were a touch naughty letting that McLaren go, but easy to say standing here. But you don't really want to come steaming into the pits like that in normal circumstances unless you're going to get a full service and you're gone in 5-6 seconds, and the brakes and everything can overheat very quickly. Normally if you're testing or you're in free practice, you just give the car half a lap to cool down before you arrive at the pits.
Looking down at Heidfeld now, first man to in this final shootout to go for it. Jarno Trulli also on a lap at the moment. Heidfeld third quickest behind Alonso and Hamilton after the opening part of this qualifying 3 session. Heidfeld goes second then on the harder tyre. 1 minute 22.968.
Well, that's not as quick as Alonso went with fuller fuel with used tyres. I think that just confirms how quick Alonso was. That time of Alonso's would keep him in the top half dozen anyway, I'd imagine, this session. But of course he wants to be on the front row of the grid, and Raikkonen is the man on the move at the moment and is a full 4/10 quicker than Hamilton in the first sector alone.
Well, judging by the way that they've both gone throughout the weekend, either he's been sandbagging or he's carrying a fair bit less fuel than Lewis Hamilton, because Kimi Raikkonen is absolutely flying out there in the Ferrari. We're looking at Hamilton coming down the straight into turn 10, brakes from 180 miles an hour down to 50. And then this final part of the lap,
half second is up Hamilton though on Alonso's earlier fuel run. So Hamilton, the first man to be very fast indeed. He's quickest man in the middle sector. He's pulled a tenth back on Raikkonen. He's now 3/10 down on Kimi Raikkonen, but still the Ferraris are looking immensely fast on this first qualifying attempt. Over the line then for Hamilton, a 22.2. That goes fastest. Look out for the Ferraris.
Raikkonen crosses the line at 22.0, just less than 0.2 of a second in it at the end. Good final sector for Lewis Hamilton, fastest of anybody so far. Here comes Massa. What's he done? He goes second in front of Hamilton. He was quicker in the final sector than Lewis was. And here is Fernando Alonso. He's the fastest of anybody in the middle sector, and a personal best in sector 1. Let's see what that all adds up to. There's less than 1/10 and a half between the top 3 at the moment. Where does Alonso insert himself into that? At the front, a 1:21.661. Listen to the crowd.
Well, completely consistent with his earlier laps, James, when he did that 1:22 on tanks. And, well, they've got to get out there now and find a half a second. It does suggest Hamilton a little bit heavier on fuel than, say, the two Ferraris, because he's quite a bit behind them in the early part of the lap, unless he made a mistake. We didn't see all of that, so now they've got 3.5 minutes left. It's enough time to get in and put another set of tyres on, of course, with a little bit less fuel as well. Another 3 laps less fuel on board from the run they've just done.
Well, it would suggest that Alonso is carrying a little bit less fuel. He did it last year. It was a winning tactic for him here with Renault last year. And I think he's hoping that the same thing can happen again. Certainly, so far this season, we've seen that when McLaren are in front at the start of the Grand Prix, they tend to be able to do something about that. Ferrari doesn't follow another car quite as well as a McLaren does. And they want the Ferraris behind them tomorrow at the start of the Grand Prix. Here's Fisichella, currently 8th fastest. This is, he dives into the pits once again, aborts a lap.
It's interesting that Alonso was actually a bit off the pace in the first sector, and then just got faster and faster and faster, almost like he was prepared to give up some grip. Maybe he's just coasting that outlap a bit better than the others. But that's a mighty effort from Fernando Alonso. No reference point, of course. They've changed the track from previous years.
Well, now they all know what they're dealing with. They know what Alonso's carrying, they know what they're carrying, and they've just got to go out now and try and do the absolute best that they can. Alonso's going to go for another lap as well. He wants to try and lower the bar. And what can Lewis Hamilton do? So far we've seen him have a fantastic start to his Formula 1 career, but there are 3 things he hasn't done yet. Get pole position, win a race, and make a mistake. And which one's going to come first?
They were tactically holding him back, presumably just from a traffic point of view there. Couldn't see anything else going on with the car. And now then, Lewis Hamilton has got a job to do. He's 4th on the grid at the moment. A couple of tenths will move him up onto the front row. He needs 6/10 to take pole position.
That's a huge ask for Lewis Hamilton. It's looking good at the moment for Alonso, you'd have to say. And what's going through the mind of Kimi Räikkönen? Alonso said the other day he felt that at the end of the day it would come down to him versus Räikkönen for the championship.
How much time?
We need to find 3/10. 2 of which are definitely in the first sector.
Okay, 2 cents are in the first sector, and Lewis is going to go and look for them. Across the line he goes. Let's see how late he dares to brake for turn 1.
Well, he's been best so far in the first sector. They said he was looking for 2. He's only found 1 of them. He's got a lot of work to do. He will see what they call a delta time on the dashboard. He'll know that he's up, but not enough at the moment. He's got all the information he needs, but he's got to focus on this blind apex as he turns into 9 at the top of the hill, and absolutely no space to spare there.
Räikkönen is the fastest man, quite a bit quicker than anybody else, and he's done a personal best in the middle sector, so he's going fast as well. It's going to be very tight indeed between Hamilton and the 2 Ferraris. Alonso is still the fastest man at the moment. Into the chicane comes Lewis Hamilton, his final qualifying effort of the afternoon. It's been a neat and tidy lap by him, plenty of commitment. He's clearly carrying a bit of fuel in the car. Across the line he goes. He goes second behind Alonso. 1:21.7, but what does Räikkönen do? He's right behind him on the racetrack. He pips Hamilton, pushes him down to 3rd, and where is Massa? He's not set a purple sector time, i.e. fastest of anybody so far on this lap has Massa. It's personal best for him, and out of the final corner he comes. Is this going to put him in front of Hamilton or behind him on the grid? He goes fastest. Pole position for Felipe Massa with an absolutely heroic final sector. Massa's on front with Alonso on beside him. He's going for another lap though, Alonso. He's going to try and grab pole position off him. There's still a chance.
A little bit wide there through the final turn. And Alonso's got a lot of work to do, does he now? Have they been able to tell him what he needs to do? And he hasn't done enough. By 300ths of a second, Alonso remains on the front row of the grid. Massa with another brilliant pole position, almost from nowhere really. Felipe Massa just pulled it out of the bag in the last few turns.
3 in a row for Massa. An absolutely brilliant pole position in the teeth of real adversity here. Alonso in the closing seconds had a chance to take it off him but couldn't. And Felipe Massa once again is on pole. It's the 6th of his career. As I say, the 3rd in a row. Alonso second then. Räikkönen is 3rd ahead of Hamilton, who starts 4th, as he did for the first 2 Grand Prix of the season in the McLaren. Kubica in 5th place, out-qualifies teammate Heidfeld. That's good for him. Jarno Trulli, a remarkable lap in the Toyota to get 6th fastest. They've been absolutely nowhere throughout free practice. And as always, on a Saturday afternoon, Trulli pulls one out of the bag. Kovalainen out-qualifies teammate Fisichella. Kovalainen 8th, Fisichella 10th, and David Coulthard in 9th place.
Yeah, well done, mate. That's fantastic. Well done. That's one of our best yet, I think. 21.4, Alonso 21.4. So very, very close. You just pipped him by 300ths. Thank you very much. Well done to all the guys as well.
Rob Smedley there, we saw him on the timing wall about 15 or 20 minutes ago. The English engineer of Fernando Alonso. Still quite a big English contingent at Ferrari, despite the departure of Ross Brawn and Nigel Stepney. And there you can see the top 10. Great news for David Coulthard, and what a tremendous grid. Look how close it is at the front for tomorrow's Spanish Grand Prix.
It's a fantastic prospect for tomorrow's race, but Felipe Massa is the king of qualifying once again. He gets his timing absolutely spot on and denies Fernando Alonso that pole position in front of his home crowd here at the Circuit of Catalunya. What a qualifying session. We'll get all the reaction and examine exactly how Felipe Massa was the fastest in just a few minutes' time.
Thank you very much for joining John Howard. Er ist der Präsident des Toyota Motorsport Teams und wir freuen uns sehr, dass er jetzt bei uns ist und sich unseren Fragen stellt. Mr. Howard, there's one laughing and one crying eye in your face, I believe, because let's talk about the worst thing first. Ralf Schumacher became 17th and is out in the first qualifying. How can this be?
Well, you have the same, I think, with Red Bull and Mark Webber, and also Alex Wurz with Williams. It's Formula One. I think he had traffic on the lap. We were struggling a bit to get the soft tyre to work, and as the temperature came up and with a bit more adjustment of the wing, the tyre got quicker. So I think overall, it's one of those things we just have to improve.
There we see the pictures, how Ralph had problems on his lap, but can you explain to the viewer, how can this happen? The one driver is performing really good, is in the last 10 and becoming 6th, and one driver is out. Is there anything at the car then, or how is the setup wrong?
You can have issues with the car. I mean, I think that this season we have a bit of a problem with the balance moving on the car, and we have to run the car with maybe more aero balance rearwards, which doesn't really suit Ralph. We did a lot of work with the new aero package, and I think it's better for him. And I don't think his qualifying position's representative of his speed here this weekend.
In general, how happy are you with your drivers this season? One hears a lot, and what can you tell the viewers to that point?
Well, I think you hear a lot in the outside world, but not from us, so I think we're happy. Key point is we just have to improve the car, and it's getting better, and we have to improve it for Ralph to get more stable and more positive front end to the car.
There's a new boss from Japan now being with the team. It's obviously normal at Toyota that after 3 years this position changes. But how difficult is it now to cope with the Japanese? It doesn't seem to be easy to get all things done with these long ways in between decisions.
Yeah, I think you completely misunderstand Toyota. There's no problem with decision making. That's why we have, if you like, people working with us in Germany. The team makes the decisions. We have to report to Japan, but I guess that's the same for every team. But I don't think it makes any difference with the change, and we're working hard, and we have support from Toyota in Japan.
Okay, I thought it might be difficult to always talk with the Japanese and not being able to just work and get this car done.
No, I think you misunderstand completely. I mean, we're totally autonomous. We have the right. We can't blame anybody if the car's not quick. It's just our problem. 107, I think, is a good basic car, and we have a lot of performance coming on over the next 4 or 5 races. So I think we're looking forward to really improving, and it's going to be a very difficult fight in midfield.
If you say it's just our problem, where are the difficulties now? Because our viewers can't imagine this Formula One cars are so difficult to understand. Maybe you can explain it. Where are the difficulties with the Toyota car this year?
Well, I think it's the same you can say with all cars. I mean, Renault have been struggling. They were world champions last year. And the critical point is the balance of the car through the corner, entry, middle, exit, and also between slow, medium and fast. And you need the car to work well in all corners, with different, if you like, capability for the driver preference. And that's the same challenge for all teams.
Thank you very much for your open words. Thank you very much, John Howard.
Ja, Jackie Stewart steht jetzt neben mir. Jackie, of course, the first question I want to know, from champion to champion, you know how it is to retire, because Michael Schumacher is back in the paddock for the first time. So how difficult is it for him to come here and not knowing I can't race?
Oh, I don't think it's a difficult job. I think for Michael, yesterday is yesterday. I hope he's grown to a point mentally where he's just happy to be here. He loves the sport, I'm sure, but I don't think he wants to drive. I was very lucky. When I stopped, I really never wanted to race again. And I don't know if Michael's in the same frame of mind, but I don't think it'll be a difficult weekend for him.
We saw him, he was hugging all the mechanics after the pole position of Felipe Massa, and he was discussing with the tire guy from Bridgestone exactly the details. Do you think he can help the team to support it?
Oh yes. No, the knowledge that Michael Schumacher has, you never forget. And he's still a contributor. He still knows the technology of driving. He still knows what has to be done. Very experienced man. And whether it's Bridgestone or whether it's Ferrari themselves, he is a very good man to have counsel.
What do you think about today's result? I mean, everybody was expecting to be Alonso on pole position at his home Grand Prix. How did you see the fight in between Massa and Alonso?
It was very close. I mean, it could have been Alonso, it could have been Massa, it could have been Raikkonen, or it could have been Hamilton. I mean, it was a little bit one way or the other. I think it'll be a good race. I think Alonso's got more maturity. He's got even more maturity than Raikkonen, certainly more than Massa or Hamilton. So I think he still can win the race.
You're still part of the Williams team, part of the marketing team. So how did you see, from the German point of view, the performance of Nico Rosberg today?
Well, I think he might be a little disappointed. I'm more with RBS than I am with the team itself.
You're more Scottish.
But there's Scottish Bank, Scottish Jackie. But I think he might have been a bit disappointed. I think he could have been in the top 10. I think more worrying is in fact Wirtz, who had a very bad qualifying, very bad first session, and he must be disappointed. So the cars are now more competitive, they're coming along, and I think Nico has great potential for the future. I think Alex really has to get himself competitive again.
I think we're both looking forward to the race tomorrow. It's going to be very exciting. Thank you, Jackie. Peter, bitte.
Nicholas Hamilton, thank you very much for being with us, Nicholas. How proud are you about your brother's performance today? He's fourth and again in the top four.
I mean, it's great. It's good for him to be in the top fourth all the time. I mean, it shows that he's very consistent, and you know, he's happy with the car and stuff like that. So it's good, and I'm very proud as him as a brother. So it's good.
We are following you and your brother since a few years now from Formula 3 Euro Series on, and you're always at the Grand Prix weekend. And he says, oh, my brother is one of the most important guys in my life because he gives me just a smile all the time. What do you think about your brother's words?
To me, it's very touching. I mean, I enjoy being with my brother, and I also enjoy being here all the time. I mean, everything we do is as a family, so we come to the track as a family, and we're known as the Hamilton family. So it's great to, you know, that my brother sees me in that certain way, and you know, it's quite touching for me. So it's good.
Thank you very much. It's great to talk to the Hamilton family always again. Thanks, Nicholas.
Been awfully quick the whole weekend. You're quite a few seconds, I mean, quite a few tenths of a seconds behind Fernando. Is it fair to say that you might be on different strategies?
Absolutely.
So you're satisfied with the qualifying?
Yeah. If we weigh it up, then I was just as quick, if not a little bit quicker. I'm not sure. We will see.
Everybody was really waiting for this qualifying after the big break, and everybody was thinking maybe Ferrari was maybe bluffing a little bit. Where do you stand for the race tomorrow?
I think we stand in good stead for tomorrow. I think, you know, we've got a good strategy. Like always, we have, you know, we're just as quick as the Ferraris. They always seem to pull something out right at the end of qualifying. But as you've seen, we're very strong in the races, so I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'm sure if we get a good start, then we should have an exciting race.
So that extra break made you a little bit more anxious even now to finally get into the race and, well, fight for the podium as you did the races before?
I wouldn't say it's made me more anxious. I'm always anxious to get out and do the best job I can. So,
thank you very much.
Well, the Spanish crowd almost got what they came for here at the Circuit de Catalunya, but Fernando Alonso just denied pole position for tomorrow's Spanish Grand Prix by the narrowest of margins, and in the very last few seconds of qualifying by the brilliant Felipe Massa, claiming it once again for Ferrari. And Mark Blundell, your reaction to Massa, who's got nerves of steel when it comes to qualifying?
He has indeed, and you know, I think we're a little bit surprised again by Ferrari because throughout the weekend they haven't been there, Steve, and all of a sudden Massa punches that one in. Alonso, we said, would dig deep, and I think he did, you know, dig deep, but it just wasn't quite enough. And Lewis Hamilton, a great job again. But Ferrari, McLaren, two-horse race.
Well, we'll talk about Lewis Hamilton in detail in a few minutes' time, but I think right now we can hear from the man himself. Let's hear from Lewis right now.
Lewis, we heard your engineer telling you needed a couple more tenths in the first sector. You've found some speed, but just not quite enough.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't able to get any further up than fourth. I'm getting used to that position now in qualifying, but no, we have a slightly different strategy to Fernando at least, and I think we're in good stead for tomorrow. You know, yeah, if you work it out, I was just as quick, if not maybe quicker. We'll see.
So no frustration at being fourth?
No, I'm getting used to it, as I said. But obviously we've been quickest throughout the weekend so far, and to not be 1-2 is a bit of a shame, but we'll keep pushing. I'm sure we've got a good strategy for tomorrow, and we have to make sure we do a good job in the first corner again.
Ferrari, are you surprised that they've suddenly seemed to find some place, I guess, when it matters in qualifying?
I'm not surprised. They always seem to play games and in practice, and so you just pay no attention to it. They're going to be quick in qualifying, in which they were, and Felipe did a fantastic job, and so, you know, it's normal.
Thanks.
Well, there's one British driver who is very satisfied, and no doubt also David Coulthard making the top 10 shootout and claiming 9th place on the grid in a back-to-form Red Bull, and all the improvements that you were hoping for seem to carry through into qualifying today.
Well, in actual fact, we've been in the top 10 at the first 3 as well with Mark, so there's not a big change there. What we need is reliability in the race. Clearly, that's where we're going to score our points. Obviously happy for me to be able to get through into that final 10. Disappointed with the runs that I did. Picked up a lot of push on the new tyres. So, on one hand, of course, you're happy. On the other hand, you're giving it, behind a couple of cars that are going to hold you up in the race.
Storming performance from yourself in Bahrain. What do you feel about your own personal driving form at the moment?
I think it's going very well. I think that, there's a lot of talk right now because I'm the oldest driver on the paddock that trying to ease me towards the exit, but I don't believe anyone would have raced harder in Bahrain, and I didn't just turn it on because because I was at the back. That's what I've always done. I've always been a racer, and the opportunity was there. The car was working well, and that's what I can deliver, so that's my motivation. Okay, David, well done, and have another good drive tomorrow. We must head into the press conference to hear from Felipe Massa, who was on pole position, and the top 3 drivers.
Felipe, it's second for Vodafone, McLaren, Mercedes, Fernando Alonso. And taking the pole for the 4th time in 5 races now for Scuderia Ferrari Marlboro, Felipe Massa. Felipe, it's beginning to be a habit for you.
Yeah, definitely. It's very nice, triple position in the row this year. So with a really quick and great car. So I'm really happy to see the job of the team. For sure, we are very competitive with McLaren during the whole weekend. They were a little bit quicker than us sometimes, and I'm really happy to be first on the qualifying, and looking forward to have definitely a important and good race. So really looking forward and really happy and really proud for the job done today.
And a pressure-filled, brilliantly timed last qualifying run there, very, very close, as you say, 0.03 of a second, in fact.
Yeah, I saw the result now. It was very, very tight. So just managed to make a good lap without mistakes, which my first try was a disaster. I just made so many mistakes. I had some cars in the front, so and then the last try was really managed to put the lap together.
Congratulations to you. And Fernando, congratulations to you on the front row for your home Grand Prix. Tremendous feeling for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think has been very, very good weekend for us so far, with the car performing really well. So I think the first row of the grid is just the confirmation of a competitive car and a competitive package that we've been driving all weekend. So, confident for tomorrow, and hopefully we can see a very good race for the battle of the victory.
It looks to be incredibly close between the 2 top teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we saw yesterday and today really, really close fight, as we expected, probably. And, as I said, this qualifying is again another, confirmation of how tight the things are between the Ferrari and the McLaren team. And of course, for the driver point of view, we have to be always 100% because the championship is really, really tight, and the races as well. So you have to do your 100% every lap of the day.
How was your final qualifying lap? Very quick on sector 2.
It was very good. I think both set of tires and both laps were very, very similar. In the last lap, I improved a little bit due to the less fuel after 3 or 4 laps between the first set and the second set you put, and nothing more. I think that I could get from the car. I was driving at the maximum, and I think both laps were pretty good, and happy with the first row of the grid.
Well done. And Kimi, turning to you, Q3 again. That's becoming a habit too, probably not one you like too much.
No, but I think so it's better than nothing. So I was more happy today, definitely, with the car. But I think so we had a good speed in the first 2 sectors, but lost it always in the last. The car got a little bit difficult to drive in the last sector, so we basically lose too much time there. But I think so we need to fine-tune it for tomorrow, and hopefully we can get it right there. But I think so we're not in such a bad position, and we'll see what happens.
Last sector, of course, includes those new corners on the circuit, and also many drivers, including yourself, talking about how the track is changing here very rapidly. Can you talk a little bit about that and about that third sector?
Yeah, it's quite a tricky sector. It's slow corners, and on those you can lose or win a lot of times. So it's a different asphalt in the last part, and it's making it quite complicated to get it right. But it's same for everybody, and unfortunately we didn't make as good as the rest.
Thank you, Kimi.
Thanks.
Felipe, turning to you finally. Every dry Spanish Grand Prix at Barcelona has been won by a driver on the front row of the grid. Probably won't have escaped your notice. Thoughts for the race tomorrow?
Well, I'll let you know tomorrow after the race. So if it was the right thing or the wrong thing. So anyway, I'm really happy to be here. So tomorrow will be a very, very difficult and tight race for all the Spanish people and everybody who is going to be watching the race. So hopefully we can have some good lucks and some good pace tomorrow.
And lots of red in the crowd, not necessarily there for Ferrari, however.
Yeah, that's true. You know, Fernando is a little bit on the better side in this way, but I'm sure if they like also Latin American people.
They do indeed, and congratulations. Now, if we can have some